What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Francis Joseph Lamana from newsbuffet.com. And I wanted to show you this shirt real quick. That's the official News Buffet merchandise. And I know that a lot of you guys are probably wondering, well, for the people who at least visit the website, you're probably wondering what the heck happened to the merchandise page. And for the first, well, I think I started it during the second year of the website. It was the second or third year that I added a merchandise page. And I had someone helping me out with t-shirts, coffee mugs, tote bags, and several other items. And what happened was the person ended up retiring. And so I pulled the merchandise link off the top of the page. And so consider yourself lucky if you actually got a t-shirt or a coffee mug, and because the items for now are discontinued until I find another person who can help me out with merchandise or figure out a way to start making the stuff myself. So tonight is finally the night of the full moon. It's in Aquarius, and this moon phase began on August 4th with the new moon in Leo. And if you read the article on newsbuffet.com, I usually do an article for the full moon. I do a moonscope article for the new moon and the full moon. And so if you visit it, newsbuffet.com, or if you visit newsbuffet.com, you'll see that there's an article up there for the new moon. And the new moon in Leo is, it's you gotta remember something about Leo. It's a fixed fire sign. It's fixed emotions. There's a lot of dogma. There's a lot of stubbornness when it comes to opinions and things that we feel strongly about. And so, I mean, it's not really a big deal, but it's really interesting because Leo is a sign of love, and it's a sign of art, and it's a sign of creation. And in the fifth house, it's also it rules the house of short-term pleasures. So, and when we think about the lion itself, it's expansive. It can't help but being noticed. And so because of that, Leo gets a reputation for wanting attention, wanting to be on stage, wanting to be under the spotlight, wanting to be noticed. And so you got to kind of take that all into consideration with the quality of the sign itself. And like I said, it's fixed fire. So it's an emotionally driven sign, and fixed meaning that it's not really very adaptable. It's not very open to change. It's kind of like, this is what I know. I feel strongly about it, and it's going to take a lot to persuade me either way, if that's even possible at all. So the advice that I was giving for August 4th, for the night of the new moon, as the new moon was in Leo, was to just be patient, was to expect disagreements, expect possible arguments, expect a difference of opinion. But if you could hold off on making key or crucial decisions, and if you could be patient enough to prevent making decisions out of haste or moves out of haste, for the time of the full moon, you'll be better prepared. And that was pretty much the point of it. Now, for those of you who don't know, Leo is a fifth house. Naturally, it's a fifth house sign. It's the fifth sign of the tropical zodiac. Leo rules the fifth house, and Leo is ruled by the sun. And then opposite of Leo is Aquarius in the 11th house, ruled by Uranus, traditionally Saturn. So there's a natural opposition between Leo and Aquarius. Aquarius is the polar opposite of Leo. And Leo or Aquarius is an air sign. It's fixed air. And Leo is fixed fire. The obvious difference there is fire and air. So air is representative of intellect. So that's why I said if you could hold off on making decisions or acting, without patience and just, acting with haste and just taking off or just making decisions based on emotion solely alone, because you might have gotten heated or fired up in the moment. You might have lost your cool and you might have decided to do something that you regret later. So my advice to you guys then was to just hold off for the time of the new moon, because once the full moon gets here, the full moon is naturally a time of revelation. So if you look at the moon cycle itself, it starts off new, right? And you can't see it. And then it gradually illuminates and it builds up until it gets to full. And when the full moon gets here now, it's a time of revelation. So the seeds that you planted or the ideas that you moved forward on in the beginning of the cycle or the phase itself, they come to fruition by the full moon, and that's when you start to receive the revelations or the information about it. Now, because that's doubly, I called it's kind of like a double, because the full moon is a time of revelation and it's going to be in Aquarius. So it provides not only the intellect or the mental answers that you might have needed for those emotional problems, but it acts as like there's like a balancing act there between air and fire, because if you think about it, fire can't survive without air. It needs oxygen. And so if the air isn't too overbearing and it isn't too powerful, if it isn't overpowering and it's just enough, then it could fan the flames forever, right? But if the intellect, if the air is too strong, it's going to blow the fire right out. So there's a balancing act there between air and fire. It's just enough to keep the flame going and keep the fire lit. And so the new moon is a time of revelations. On top of that, it's in Aquarius, which is not only a sign of intellect, but it's also the polar opposite of Leo, which gives emotional Leo that intellectual balancing that it needs. So if you were able to hold off until the time of the full moon, you should be better prepared to move forward, and you should be better prepared to make decisions that you were going to make in the beginning of this month. One more thing on that note is that's why they tell you that it's a good, and you only got to do over 20, 25, 30 minutes. If you could meditate on the nights of new and full moons, it's good, because you know what, you should be right in sync with whatever you need to be in sync with, and hopefully you're getting the visions and the telepathic downloads that you need to get to make the proper decisions. Or even if it's not decisions or anything like that, it's just maybe a simple vision on how to move forward. So something interesting about this time Um, so today is the 19th. Tonight is the night of the full moon. And in 3 more days, it's going to be the 21st. Now, there's something interesting that I saw on the 21st, and it does fall in line with Revelations. But I think as we get closer to the 21st, it seems like it's going to be a really special night for Revelations, and I'm going to tell you why. Because when we get to the 23rd, which is Wednesday, the moon will be waning down. So it will have had its full moon phase tonight, and then it's going to be waning. It's going to be a waning gibbous in 3 days. You should really check and see what the moon phase was when you were born. So you could just Google that real easy. What was the moon phase on whatever your birth date is, and it'll tell you what the moon was on your date of birth. For me personally, it was a waning gibbous on the date that I was born, and it's going to be a waning gibbous in 3 nights. Also, on the 21st, the sun will have moved to the 29th degree of Leo, which really coincides with the beginning of this whole moon phase because it began in Leo. So the moon will be on the last degree, or the sun will be on the last degree of Leo on the 21st. And the 29th degree of Leo has always been a special degree for me because that's where my North Node is. And I know that there's a lot of people that have alignments on the 29th degree of Leo. I know Joe Biden has his North Node also on the 29th degree of Leo. There's a lot of people that I've met locally that have either Uranus or something going on the 29th degree of Leo. And don't forget also that's the position for the star Regulus, which is considered to be the heart of the lion. So if you have an alignment on the 29th degree of Leo in your natal chart, then this should be a really important time for you. So what I found was that on the 21st, the sun will be reaching the 29th degree of Leo. For me, that will be the position of my natal North Node conjunct the star Regulus. And the moon will actually be on the 1st degree of Aries. And the timing and the positioning of this is all right because the lucky numbers for the sign of Aries are 1 and 9. If you do the numerology for 8/21/2024, you'll see that it can be added and reduced. Well, it can be added to equal 19. So it will be 8 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 4. So if you add the date for 8/21/2024, it equals 19. 1 and 9 are the lucky numbers for Aries, and the moon's going to be on the 1st degree of Aries that night. And the Sabian symbol for the 1st degree of Aries, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I think it's a display. I think it says it's a display of talent. So what I'm expecting for the night of the 21st is like a super revelation. Because if the moon's sitting on the 1st degree of Aries and the Sabian symbol for that reads, it's supposed to be like a wake up of natural ability. So, and I hope that everybody gets that. I'm trying to see if I have the paper in front of me because I did actually write down what the first Sabian symbol for the 1st degree of Aries was. I might not have, but you guys can check that out for yourself. You can go to any site for Sabian symbols and see what it is. But I think that's what it is. It's a revelation of natural abilities. And that's going to be on the night of the 21st, which is Wednesday. So while we're talking about, before I move on, I wanted to just say, so it's going to be like like a double, another double, another double revelation. So you're getting the revelations naturally because the moon's going to be full on tonight on the 19th. It's going to be in Aquarius, which is the polar opposite, an air sign. It's an air sign. It's the polar opposite sign for Leo. And 3 days later on the 21st, which is Wednesday, we're going to get whatever we have in store for us with the moon being on the first degree of Aries. Moving on to Sabian symbols, I made a comment on the News Buffet Facebook page. I make a lot of comments because I got a lot of things to say and I got a lot of opinions. And you know what? I understand things for the way I want them to be. And, you know, that might seem a little bit selfish to say, but after I explain, I'm sure some of you who understand me will agree with what I'm saying. So there's a lot of sites on the internet. There's a lot of websites that offer Sabian symbol, or that offer Sabian symbols. And if you don't know what a Sabian symbol is, I'm going to explain it. So I think it was around 1920 or 1923, there were one or two psychics. I'm not really sure. I think the first person was a woman, and I think a man ended up doing it with her, either did it with her or did his own. But since from 1923 and moving forward, a psychic, a telepathic, put forth her visions for the zodiac. So this person had a psychic vision for each degree of the zodiac. And it's 360 degrees, so there's 360 Sabian symbols. So that's what they call them. They're called Sabian symbols. And what they are is exactly what I just said. There were psychic visions that a person had for each degree. So each degree of the zodiac is really special, and it's, you know, in and of itself. So the point that I was getting to was that there's a lot of websites that offer Sabian symbols. And I used to use, or I use a website specifically. I've only been using one website for Sabian symbols since I've been using them for the last few years. But I'm starting to notice now that the site is getting saturated with opinion. And I don't want that. I don't want it. I want what the original psychic vision was, and I want to interpret it for myself. And what's happening on this website is now you're getting, you know, people that are giving their opinions of the visions. And it's like, well, how many people? I mean, you already have the guy who made the website who's presenting the Sabian symbols to us. Now, does he need to bring on 5 or 10 more people to give their interpretations of the same Sabian symbol? I mean, I just feel like it's unnecessary, it's irrelevant, and I would rather not have somebody's opinion. I would like to just have personally the psychic vision, the original vision, and I would like to interpret it for myself and for the people that I work for. And so I'm not going to be using, and I said to be careful of the sites that you use. And you know what? I might not go back to this site because of that, because it's just turning me off at this point. And like I said, I'm not interested in what, Bob and Joe's opinion is of something that was put forth, a piece of gold that was put forth in 1923. I don't need their opinions or their interpretations of something that I'm going to be interpreting for myself. And so, but if I could make this recommendation, and you know what, I'm going to follow my own advice here. I'm going to buy a book. I think I'm going to purchase myself a book of the original Sabian symbols. And I think that that's going to be a good book to have in my collection. And I encourage you all to do the same. If you're interested in astrology, if you're interested in Sabian symbols and you use Sabian symbols in your readings, I strongly suggest that you pick up a book that is as close to the original as you can get, and keep that with you. This internet thing, it's really filled with a lot of, there's a lot of fillers, a lot of BS on it. A lot of people that like to jump on the bandwagon, a lot of people that like to just, shoot their mouths off and put their opinions out there when, one, it's not even necessary. Two, they're probably not qualified. And three, it's like, who really cares in the end? So, that's where I'm at with Sabian symbols. But I do want to tell you guys that Sabian symbols are really important, and it does give you an in-depth. If you're not in sync with your chart and you're not really in sync with astrology, it's going to be hard for you to see that right now. But if you stay with it and you stay studying, eventually you're going to get to the point where you're like, wow, these Sabian symbols are really on point for my life right now. And they are really beneficial to my practice. You will notice that one day if you stay with astrology. And the last thing I wanted to mention was, and I always talk about this, but if you haven't seen James Redfield's movie, The Celestine Prophecy, you guys should really, really watch that movie. That movie is just, I mean, I've seen it like 10 times and I watch it over and over again. And again, like the books that I read, every time I watch it, I learn something new. And I just watched it again yesterday, and I noticed the beginning of that movie was set in the 1600s in Peru. And if you notice, it's all the characters that were in the movie later on in the movie. So, what that indirectly is showing you is that reincarnation is real. They're showing you, as part of the prophecy, these same people in the same roles were doing the same things in the 1600s. The only difference is in the 1600s they were writing, or they found the scrolls, or they were hiding them. They were learning the prophecy. Like they were if you haven't seen the movie, I'm just going to real quick to explain it to you. There's like 9 or 10 insights, and it's about spirituality. And so I don't think that people could have learned all of these insights in one lifetime. Like you always hear the term of soul's journey, and that's kind of what it's really about. Like, in the 1600s, they had gotten only so far with the scrolls or the manuscript. And then the rest of the movie takes place in modern times. But like I said, what's interesting about it is that you have the same people that are back. One guy was a teacher. People, they came from all over and went back to Peru to figure out or finish up what they had started in the 1600s with this manuscript. So it's like this ongoing saga that we live as humans. Like we are, it just showed that we are on a journey. And that's what I picked up on it. And then later in the movie, when John, the main character, goes up to the woman and he's asking her on a date or something, he sees her and she's kind of working on something. And I think he makes the comment to her or asks her if she wants to hang out. And she says to him, "Not this time." And it's like really cool, because then you see like she knows. And they say it in the movie, like when you meet somebody and they are familiar to you and you feel like you know that person, chances are you did live a previous life together. And that's exactly how that played out. It's like they didn't say that directly, but that's what's indirectly implied. You know what I mean? Like they just kind of indirectly knew that. She said to him, she's like, "Not this time." I guess because the last time they were together and they all got killed because of the manuscripts. And so this time around, they end up killing the guy who has really been the thorn in their side this whole time. And they discover the 9th insight, and then they move on and they find that there's a 10th. But it's a really good movie if you're on a spiritual journey, if you're trying to understand the whole idea about control dramas, if you're trying to understand the human condition and the whole energy thing, and why people fight for energy and why energy is so important and how to obtain energy. It's a really good movie to watch. And like I said, I've seen it 10 times and I'll probably watch it even more, but it really, really explains the control drama. And it's like if you don't take yourself out of, it's like people manipulating for control. They tell you that there's different personality types, and each personality type has a way to manipulate for energy. And so I don't want to tell you too much, but check it out. It's called The Celestine Prophecy. It's an older movie by James Redfield. There's also a book that he wrote. So yeah, and that's about it. I mean, me personally right now, newsbuffet.com, my website, will be celebrating its 6-year anniversary come the 21st of September. So in another month, News Buffet will be on the web for 6 years. That's an accomplishment, an achievement that I'm proud of. I am the sole contributor, editor, and maintenance person of the site. You know, I have my 2 books, Smorgasbord. I've told you guys about those. Smorgasbord 3 is completed. I'm looking for a publishing company that's willing to take that on. And I have there's actually 2 more books that I'm working on that I'm not going to really get into because I don't really like to talk about what I'm working on until it's complete. It's just a superstitious thing that I have. When you talk about things that you're working on, it seems like they never get finished. So there's 2 things that I'm working on, and when they're complete, I'll let you guys know. Other than that, have a great day. I had a good time going live with you. And yeah, tonight's the night of the full moon. Enjoy it. Visit newsbuffet.com. See you guys later.